Hi, my name's Andrea. I'm the head of coffee at Caravan Coffee Roasters in London. Um, I am not here to talk to you about that part of my job at all today. In fact, today I am here to talk about something pretty dear to my heart and quite a bit different than maybe what I would normally speak to an audience about at a coffee festival. So here we go. What you're looking at right now is the one and only slide that I have prepared for this presentation. So I've actually got a bit of a slideshow here, which I'll just leave in the background. All right, so today we're going to talk about traditional cafes. Kissatens, Caffs, and Kafenios was what I named this, but traditional cafes go by lots of different names. They can be found pretty much the world over. And so today we're going to discuss kind of what they are, who they serve, how they serve, and what we can learn from this kind of other model of coffee business. So, like most presentations at coffee festivals, I'm going to be discussing things in really broad strokes today, probably asking more questions than I have time to answer, and I'm making no attempt to cite any source materials, so please take that with a large pinch of salt. I'm not really here to revere or revile any parts of the coffee industry. In fact, very much the opposite. So, yeah, okay, so to start, I'm going to tear down the fourth wall. Get ready for it. In coffee, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth waves of coffee do not actually exist. Incredible. There are no waves. There are no boundaries. Shout out Caravan crew. All these so-called waves and the types of coffee businesses, local communities, and customers that they serve all coexist today, even if we don't, in specialty coffee, often recognize them as part of our shared community. Though a definition of a traditional versus specialty coffee experience is about as difficult to describe as many of the other phrases we use in coffee, such as sustainability. I suppose we can start by naming a few types of businesses which would potentially fall into this category of traditional. Those would be things like Turkish coffee houses, Greek Kafenios, American diners, British Caffs, French tabaks, Japanese Kissatens, Hong Kong's Cha-Cha-Teng, and the list goes on and on. We'll go into what makes these types of businesses similar to each other and dissimilar to specialty coffee in a second. But first, we're going to go through a bit of history. So the established narrative of cafe culture in the global north, which I won't delve into right now, but you can just Google Lloyd's Bank, tends to oversimplify the diverse, complex, and interwoven history of all types of cafes. From the ones I just mentioned to many others that I don't have time to go into. And it fails to acknowledge where coffee, the commodity, and coffee, the culture, has been introduced, reconstituted, and altered due to colonialism and global trade. It also unsurprisingly weaves a linear narrative in which coffee left one country, traveled to another country, and then another country, improving at each location and metamorphosizing from its beginnings as a culturally significant and ritualistically enjoyed beverage in the places where it originated, Ethiopia, for those that don't know, to the culturally significant and ritualistically enjoyed beverage that we know it as today in Western Europe. So, this linear narrative of coffee's origin story, its journey across the world, and eventual discovery by important men in important cities, is not one that ends with Lloyd's Bank, or Café Florian, or Proof Rock. As an industry, we continue to repeat and revise this narrative with each passing year, embedding it further in our collective psyche, and in doing so, thrusting those on the margins of this narrative out of the story altogether. We fail to acknowledge the overlapping, looping, and intersectional contributions of many members of our communities, and the origin of many of the concepts we think we created ourselves. Pour over, anybody? Yeah. The idea that earlier waves of coffee were simplistic or their products were of inherently poor quality is not only untrue, it supports a classist assumption that those who choose to enjoy their coffee in certain ways, eat certain styles of food, or look for certain experiences or aesthetics are also simplistic or have bad taste. The idea that coffee has a correct way to be served is clearly false. Yet many of us look down our noses at diner coffee, instant coffee, coffee with sweetener, coffees without provenance? And why? Can we find ways of acknowledging those benefits? Instant coffee, for example, can be prepared very quickly without a lot of equipment. It makes an inexpensive and relatively inoffensive brew. Perhaps with a meal, a mug of anaerobically fermented, yeast-inoculated, thermal-shocked geisha is not going to go well with breakfast. A recent report in the publication New Ground has claimed that just shy of a third of specialty coffee shops don't make it past their 5th birthday, and 1 in 6 close within the first 12 months. In the UK, we might think of traditional cafes as a dying breed, but the truth is that many of these businesses have lasted 30, 40, 50 or more years, and many are still going strong. How have these types of coffee houses survived so long? What are they offering that promotes their longevity, and what can we learn from them? So here are some qualities usually ascribed to a traditional cafe. They serve food, usually local fare, usually affordable. Seating, they usually have seating, usually without a time limit on how long you can stay. And by the same token, they usually have toilets, because the rudest thing in coffee is not having a toilet at your coffee shop. They are often family-owned. They often cater to a diverse age range of young families, working people, and the elderly. Many are open long hours. Many serve alcohol. Often the decor reflects the clientele and the culture surrounding them. And many have instantly recognizable designs, so think Formica tables, Turkish cups, etc. On the flip side, what are the common themes of many specialty coffee shops as we know them? An emphasis on the quality of the coffee, an emphasis on perhaps the brand of roaster that they use, sometimes a full menu, but often just pastries. Many don't serve alcohol. Many serve primarily young people, millennials and Gen Z. Many are open limited hours, 7 or 8 a.m. till 3 or 4 p.m. Many have limited seating or limits on how long one can sit, and designs that may reflect the aesthetic style of the clientele, but not necessarily the surrounding culture. Think white tiles, concrete, bare brick, exposed lights. When taken as a sum of their parts, which sounds nicer to spend a bit of time in? Now we're going to enter the part of the talk where I'm going to exploit my liberal arts degree. Anthropology, Japanese, shout out to where I am today. So researchers have recently started uncovering that part of what wakes us up when we drink coffee, the thing that actually boosts our mood, is the ritual of preparing the coffee, not just the caffeine itself. Rituals can be personal, they can be familial, but they're almost always cultural. Rituals serve to mark the passing of time, they mark important occasions, but primarily they exist to strengthen the bonds between people. Friendships, families, even strangers. The interaction of the barista and the customer is a ritual, as are the various elements involved in the coffee shop: the servingware, the decor, the music, the reading material. When we enjoy a coffee outside our home, we're looking for a type of experience, a type of ritual, that speaks to us about ourselves and helps us connect to others and the passing of time. In many traditional cafes, the ritual does not center around coffee itself, but rather the cafe environment as a whole. In a British cafe, there may be more tea drinkers than coffee drinkers, more hearty meals as opposed to filled croissants. The rituals performed at these businesses speak to and about themselves and their clientele. It reinforces their bonds. When we frequent our local specialty coffee shop of choice, we are reinforcing our bonds as a community, reinforcing those touchstones of our identities upon which we build our lives. However, while these patterns of behavior are normal, understandable, for many patrons of traditional cafes, such as the unhoused or the elderly, having a warm place to sit which does not challenge their budget or judge their appearance can be massively beneficial. While many young professionals may have higher spending capacity per capita, they are also more likely to move neighborhood more regularly, to switch from one new, trendy cafe to the next new, trendy cafe. A Caffs patrons, alternatively, in this regard, may be more attached to the places they live, be more loyal regulars, and therefore provide a greater long-term source of income for the cafe owner than the young urban professional. As has been much talked about recently, The share of the at-home market for specialty coffee consumption is growing, while the out-of-home market is seeing lower or nearly stagnant growth. In light of, and even despite of this, some in the industry are moving towards ever faster, ever more automated service, with chains, new and old, trying to capture these young urban professionals in what they perceive to be their peak form. Busy, 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 and ready to drop their hard-earned cash so long as no one takes too long, or God forbid, talks to them. Caffs, Kissatens, and other traditional spaces are distinctly not this vibe. While many do take away coffees, the purpose of these spaces is for sitting, chatting, eating, or just observing. Perhaps one way specialty can open up more market opportunities for ourselves is to stop trying to chase the ever-elusive, busy urban young professional and instead look to expand in quite the opposite direction, to welcome the loungers, the chatters, the newspaper readers. Those who may, it's true, be tighter with their hard-earned cash, but who are there to enjoy the experience and the banter, not just a hit of caffeine. By looking to these businesses who have, for years, been quietly churning out hot meals, hot coffees, and keeping their lights on, we may learn something about how we can diversify the experiences of our own customers and invite those to the table who we may not have seen as members of our community in years past, but who certainly should be in the future. Thank you very much. Cheers.